I'm Judy Shaw for NYSE Floor Talk. Joining me today is Dave Weisberger. He is CEO and co-founder at CoinRoutes. Dave, it's wonderful to have you here. Thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. Always a pleasure.
My pleasure. Now, before we get started, just a quick note to our viewers. This interview is for informational purposes only. The NYSE doesn't recommend any investments or investment strategies. All right, so Dave, let's start off by talking about CoinRoutes. Tell me about the company.
Well, we founded CoinRoutes back at the beginning of 2017, where we recognized that the markets for crypto, unlike what the popular conception is, are actually extremely electronic and extremely transparent. There is an enormous amount of data that companies produce, but the markets are very fragmented. Certainly they were really fragmented back then. It's improved a lot since then. And my son, Ian, had the idea that we should help people navigate between these markets. So we dug into the market microstructure and we started to build a company. We filed for patents for a distributed router. We effectively have been taking a lot of data. We've been commercializing and building for 6 years. Our focus is to help investors, institutional investors, get best execution. Because best execution in crypto is sort of almost an oxymoron in the space. And so we care about that because trading costs matter, right? That's what's going to drive adoption. When it costs you 2% or 1% to buy or sell, it really doesn't lend itself toward people really wanting to be in the asset class. If you think about equities, Charles Schwab, when they first came in, what happened? As commissions came down and trading costs went down, interest came up. And if you look at the way around the New York Stock Exchange, this place, as it's gotten more electronic, volumes have gone up and participation has gone up. So CoinRoutes is focused on delivering algorithms to help institutions trade large blocks. And we also focus on metrics. So we actually calculate with our partners, one of your competitors is actually a partner of ours, to distribute metrics for measuring what is best execution. And we have a whole transaction cost analysis product suite also, which is very reminiscent of the way ITG started their business back in the day. But we're doing it here in crypto. We've been doing it for a few years now.
Mm-hmm. All right, and tell me, Dave, how can traders best navigate the current digital asset market?
Well, the reality is that it depends on where you're situated and who you are. Like we publish research on our CoinRoutes blog. We're doing a quarterly research piece. We just started it last quarter, but we're tracking the cost to trade at every single second between $25,000 up to $1 million of what it would take in the order book. Just as an aside, we're processing between 10 and 15 terabytes of market data every single day. So all these exchanges all around the world publish order books. Some are trustworthy, i.e. we know the data is accurate because we traded, and then there are hundreds of exchanges that frankly we don't trust and our customers haven't asked us to connect to. But if you look at Coinbase, for example, they are transparent. 100% of every single order book transaction is published, not any different than a lot of other markets that we're used to in the traditional space. So for people to navigate those markets, what they need to do is they need to actually see what the data is. And companies like CoinRoutes, that's what we help our institutions do. Retail has a bit of a tougher road, but retail is generally more concerned with safe custody and with their intermediaries than they are with costs. That will change over time for sure, but right now we're still in the early days of that.
All right, and finally, Dave, tell me, do you anticipate a decoupling of Bitcoin from equity markets anytime soon?
Well, I don't know about anytime soon, but I do know it will happen. So, Bitcoin is right now trading, and I always explain it this way, as an option on its own adoption. So if you think about that, Bitcoin, if it is successful, and I think there's a fairly substantial chance that it will be successful, it will effectively replace gold as a monetary standard to measure governments against. That is 20 to 30 times today's price. And so Bitcoin today is trading like an option on that. So its volatility is very high. To geek out for a heartbeat, its volatility is, if anything, higher or about the same as some of the most volatile tech stocks. So it is not surprising that Bitcoin trades often correlated with volatile tech stocks because of money flows. And we could talk about the Federal Reserve and why money flows matter. So today it's there, but the long term for Bitcoin will 100% be as a basic option against trust in government institutions as a measure of money. And that will mean volatility will start to drop. And as that happens, I would expect decoupling to happen at the same time.
All right, well, Dave, wonderful to have you here. Thanks for joining me on Floor Talk.
Well, thank you for having me.